Hey everybody, welcome to this week's Mindset Monday, where we get together and talk about the things that actually matter. I'm Beth Jones, I'm your host here in the Mindset Academy, and on this week's episode, we're going to talk about what is a life coach. These are all things I said to myself back in the day when life coaches first came on the scene. My high-achieving, professionally succeeding self that was doing and giving on epic levels was like, life coaching? What are these people gonna do? Yay! Way to go to the grocery store. You're doing so good at life. All I could see in my head was that these people were like cheerleaders for adulting. And I was like, why would anybody ever need that? I don't get it. This is probably the massive aversion I have to referring to myself as a life coach, even though that seems to be the terminology that most people get the best. But if you've been around here for any more than 30 seconds, you know that I'm pretty used to not being understood. I'm pretty used to not fitting in the boxes, and I'm pretty used to being an outlier. So life coach just doesn't work for me. What does that mean? What do you call me? I don't actually know the answer to that, because I also have an aversion to labels because none of them seem to make sense. I'm a mindset mentor. I'm a subconscious retrainer. Basically, I'm like a true identity explorer. I help my clients come home to themselves, to a place where they feel full, where they feel whole. And the reality is that what I do in my life now, from the outside, on a day-to-day basis, and what I did in my life then, doesn't look a whole lot different. But it feels like a completely different universe. I'm still a giver. I'm still a doer. I'm still a wide open heart. I'd still give a person the shirt off my back. It's just who I am as a person. The way I used to do it, though, was at the sacrifice of myself. It was putting all of my own needs and desires way on the bottom of the priority list. And I was trying to pour into people from a place of complete exhaustion, from overwhelm, from insecurity, from confusion, from trying to hold everything together. And I was just trudging through it every day. And every day I woke up and, I had these intentions, I had these plans for what I needed to get done for the day, and they would get derailed the minute that somebody else said that they needed something. And then I would get to the end of the day and I would, despite having helped tons of people or having made an impact on the world around me, I felt like a failure at the end of the day because I didn't actually do any of the things that I needed to do for me or that I wanted to do for my professional growth. Was I successful professionally at that time? Yes. Was it harder than it had to be? Absolutely. So we get back to this term, life coach. Because I was always a do-it-yourselfer. Intellectually, I knew that I had the intelligence and the capability and the grit to figure it out. And so I was like, why would I go ask this other person for help, right? And I get it. I completely understand that. And I'm not doubting anybody's capability to figure it out. However, my life completely changed when I finally got willing to explore the possibility of continuing to learn from people that were doing the things that I wanted to do. And so rather than looking at these people and saying, wow, they've got an incredible system, I'm going to study it. I'm going to spend 12 hours a day studying what they're doing and reading their website, building their, like all these things, and like emulating what they're doing and trying to figure it out on my own. And was like, what if I just asked somebody that already has what I want, how they got it? It seems mind-blowingly simple, right? But the fierce independent in me that wanted to maintain this facade of having it all together and being able to do it all on my own was tied intrinsically to my worth. Because from the time I was very small, achievement and doing and giving were tied to my worth. And I was under the very false impression that if I were to let go of that, if I were to say, somebody help me with this thing or that thing, or as it turned out, 25 different thousand things, that I would lose that. That the world would see me differently. That all of a sudden I would turn into like a pumpkin, right? That I once was this like fierce, do-it-yourselfer, empowered, like can handle anything human, into like, meh, just a person who couldn't do it by herself. But what I realized in the evolution of all of that was that, one, I was selling myself short. Two, I was not achieving at the level I could have been because of this block. I could have achieved higher levels faster had I been willing to get the support. Because it would have taken me a quarter of the time, or a tenth of the time, or half the time to learn what I needed to learn to get to the level that whoever was at that I was trying to achieve. But I couldn't. Because there was something attached to my worth that disallowed me from asking to learn, which seems like totally bananas, right? So I started to explore. I started to get curious. I started to get willing. And what I learned throughout that process is that I didn't know what I didn't know. My brain has limitations, just like your brain has. We all do. We only can see things from our own perspective. And we can try and try and try, and we can meditate, and we can think, and we can brainstorm, and we can journal, and we can try to get these blocks out. But we still only have the perspective that we have. Richard Branson has a perspective on being a billionaire that I don't have, no matter how long I journal or think about it. I can speculate. I can research. I can read about what he's doing or what he's investing in. But I don't have a chance at understanding the depth of his mindset, or all the steps he took to get him where he went, or all the pitfalls he's experienced along the way, and how he navigated those, and 1 trillion other things that my brain can't process because I'm not Richard Branson and I've never talked to him. Because I don't know what I don't know. It's impossible to know what we don't know, right? From a perspective standpoint. We can learn, we can read books. Like I said, we can meditate, we can explore, we We can think about our thinking. We can explore the way we're thinking. We can ask ourselves why those thought patterns come up. But outside perspective is imperative to shine light on our blind spots. And when I finally allowed myself to access that level of support and that level of learning that gave me the support to have someone that could shed light on those blind spots, but also to teach me how better to navigate, how better to see them for myself so that I could begin to access those pieces bit by bit, everything changed. And I suppose from the standpoint that what I do is not, it doesn't fit in a box. It's not exclusively professional business coaching. It's not exclusively career coaching. It's not exclusively productivity coaching. It's not exclusively health and wellness coaching. It's not exclusively spiritual guidance. It's not exclusively relationship coaching. It's very all-encompassing, and it's all-encompassing because we're dealing with the common denominator in all of those facets, which is the entirety of who you are. And what gifts and capabilities and intellect and strengths and brilliance you bring to the table in every single one of those facets. And exploring what motivates you from the inside out, which is different than what motivates me from the inside out. The things that have the power to pull you out of bed effortlessly in the morning are different than mine. Which is why I'm not giving anybody a PDF playbook with the magical answers, because they don't exist. Humans are individuals. What I do with my private clients is help them unfold all of this for themselves. They begin to peel back the layers. This is why I talk about being an identity explorer. They begin to peel back the layers of who they're not so that they can figure out who they are. And we have to do that first before they can begin to uncover their gifts and their innate strengths and their brilliance and their capabilities and embrace them and grow confident in them and arrive at a place where they feel full and whole in those gifts despite the flaws and the things that they're not that great at. There are probably 500,000 things, it's probably a lot more than that, if we're being honest with each other, that I'm not good at. There are plenty of things that I can't do. And I used to spin my wheels, getting exhausted and overwhelmed and frustrated like all hell, trying to prove that I could. Not necessarily to anybody but me. But you'll remember that I was talking about how these things, this fierce independence, this ability to do it all, became my identity. It was tied intrinsically to my own worth, to the value I felt about myself. So even if it was like a tiny, pretty irrelevant thing that I might only need to do one time ever, I would spend days figuring out how to do it. Talk about an epic waste of time. And all the time I spent doing that, one, pulled me away from what I am good at and what I should have been doing, which was staying in my gifts, in my wheelhouse, and allowing someone else to fill that gap who was good at it. I talk about that a ton in my private work. when we are willing to stay in our own wheelhouse and just be good at what we're good at, or get good at the things that matter to what we're doing and make us even better at the problems we're already good at solving and lean into our natural capabilities, we leave space open for people who are good at those other things to step into it. And now, not only are we living our best lives, we're allowing them to live their best lives too, because they can fill that gap. And they love it. I've talked about before, organization is not my forte. Setting up systems is not my forte. Can I do it? Yes. Is it the best use of my time? Absolutely not. And as part of this evolution of who I am and what I have let go of, and what I now refuse to let rattle my own worth and my own value about me, is that I'm totally okay with letting somebody else do it. And what's great about it is that the people that do those things for me, for us, really, the people that do those things for me love it. And they get as excited about building those systems and working in these little tiny details as I get excited about connection and love and personal growth and providing fully present, whole support to the humans I get to work with. And if I continued to beat my head against a wall, being not good at the things that I'm not good at, or trying to get good at things I'm just don't come naturally to me, I wouldn't be able to show up fully in the places where I'm meant to be, in the things that I'm meant to do. That's why it's so powerful to dig into this work. And that's why it impacts so much of our lives. Because if we think about it, there's so much influence in every facet, right? We talk to the other wives at or the other moms at PTA, and they're throwing these Pinterest parties, and they're always cutting up oranges for soccer, and they're, whatever it is that they're doing. Some of them actually love that. And that is a beautiful thing. Some of them hate it and think they have to do it because that's what good moms do. And the ones that hate it and are doing it because they think that that's what good moms do are losing their strength and the gift that they bring to the table as moms, which may be that they build the best freaking blanket fort around. And when they build that blanket fort, they're full of joy and laughter and love, and their kids feel loved and they feel like they're connecting and everybody feels present. What if that mom, instead of building the blanket fort, had spent an hour cutting up oranges for soccer and cussing about it the whole time? And then was so exhausted by doing this thing that she felt obligated to do that she didn't build that blanket fort. And now, in order to keep up with the other good moms, she's pulled herself away from her innate, beautiful, natural style of mothering. This is what I'm talking about. The same thing happens in relationships, right? We see these, vixens on Instagram, or these like total studs on Instagram. And as men, we're like, oh God, I need to be this Greek god to be attractive to my person. So I'm going to restrict all my calories, and I'm going to spend 2 hours at the gym, and I'm going to spend so much time and energy building this body that I'm exhausted and unable to be present with my lover anyways. Or these women who are like, oh, look at this girl in this lingerie and her butt's so perfect and her boobs are so perfect. And I don't feel like that in my lingerie, or I don't feel like that in that lingerie. And so I put on the lingerie because I'm doing it because I feel like I should, because that's what men want. And now I'm like really insecure about my body and I can't show up and I can't be present and I can't be joyful and I can't connect because I'm so busy like being insecure that I can't be in it. This is the power of learning to show up as who we are. Of learning to lean on the things that feel right to us. Where we can embrace our wholeness and stop trying to be things that we're not. And feel safe in love and feel safe in our ability to trust and our intuition. And again, our natural gifts and capabilities, and just leaning on that steady ground that we can create for ourselves when we're willing to peel back all the layers of all the things. And again, this applies to every single facet of our lives. Investments, right? People spend all this time studying these elaborate investment strategies. And they end up investing in things that they don't understand and don't make sense to them. So they have no idea how to read the market. They have no idea what to research. They're just like gambling. Versus figuring out what makes sense, what feels right. Exploring things that are of interest and investing in those companies. Exploring things that we feel like will make an impact and investing in those things. It's completely different strategies, right? It's the same with our families. It's the same with fitness and health. It's the same with nutrition. I get up every morning and drink celery juice. I need it for a number of different reasons that are biological to my own body. It's highly likely that I will also eat powdered donuts or a frozen sausage biscuit or peanut butter and jelly out of the jar. Balance, right? When we're in tune with who we are and what our bodies are telling us and what our intuitions are telling us, and being full and well and confident in our own gifts, we don't feel the need to continue to wrestle through all this exhaustion and overwhelm to prove that we're something that we're not. And that is where freedom and peace and the depth of love that we desire and the safety and security in relationships that we desire and the security and self-assuredness to show up as who we are every day. And everything just gets a lot more relaxed. So no, I'm not a life coach. Or I am, but I'm also not. I don't know. See, this is my problem with labels. This is where the trouble comes. Not the least of which is that I still remember the girl I was 10 years ago that I was like, what the fuck is a life coach? They make it more lifey. I don't know what that means. So if you've had that same hang up, like, I don't need somebody to tell me how to be better at life. This is not that. Okay. This is way deeper and way more intensive and way more all-encompassing than all of those things. But I get where your head's at, and I totally appreciate it. As always, I am so grateful we got to spend this time together. I'm always so excited to connect with you all. Please, if you're interested in exploring, reach out. Let's talk about it. Let's just figure out what your next best step is. And I'd love to explore it with you. Let's just figure out where you're stuck and figure out how to get you unstuck, and figure out what the answers that you're hiding from yourself look like. Because I was mind blown when I found the support I needed to start looking in my blind spots and gain increased perspective on all of the things. And what I figured out was equal parts nauseating and freeing was that I was in my way. There were patterns and thought processes and blocks, just like this fierce independence tie to my self-worth, that were holding me back. And it gets a lot easier when we stop holding ourselves back. And the best part is that, like, we don't need anybody else's permission for it. We don't need anybody to buy in. When I gained this increased perspective, I was able to just start making the changes that I needed to make. I didn't need to say, is this okay with you? What do you think about this? Because I knew that I was accessing the highest and best version of myself, and there is no world that doesn't benefit from us being the highest and best version of ourselves. Our relationships benefit, our kids benefit, our careers benefit, our businesses benefit, all of it. All of it. I'm looking forward to connecting with you. Drop a note and tell me what your ahas were for today, because I love those. If you have any questions, ask those in the comments too, because I guarantee somebody else did also, and I would love to answer those for you. We'll look forward to next week. Next week's Mindset Monday episode will be at 3 o'clock Eastern, just like they always are. And hopefully I'll talk to you before then. Have a most brilliant week. Remember that you are brilliant and capable and deserving, even on the days when it feels like you're not.